Hey guys, this is Eliza and welcome back to a new video. I'm sorry if you can hear my voices are like a little bit croaky. I'm like getting over a cold. It's the middle of freaking summer. What the hell? But my dad went to sleep the other day with his aircon on and ended up with a cold, which he then passed to me. Great. So yeah, if you hear my voice is a bit funny, that is why. So today we will be talking about all the books that I read in the month of October. I definitely didn't read as many as I usually do. I've gone down a little bit, mainly because it's just been so busy. And also one of the books, well basically two of the physical books that I read were not necessarily slow, but they just were big books. One of them was slow. I ended up swapping to the audiobook halfway through, but the first one, it took me a while. Like I didn't finish my first physical book until I think it was like 10 days into the month or something. So yeah, and the second one took me a while because I was like putting it off because I wasn't loving it, and then I was like, nope, I'll just finish it on audiobook, and then I finished it only 2 days after that. But I was like struggling with it leading up to that, so it took a long time. So yeah, definitely didn't read as many as I usually would. 5 of these I'm going to talk about very, very quickly because they're all the one series and they're a reread. But I did read a total of 9 books, so let's get into it. So firstly, I'll talk about the 6 audiobooks that I listened to, and then I'll talk about the 3 physical / ebooks that I read. So firstly, I read 5 of the books in the Harry Potter series. I'm not sure if these are even sitting in order. They're not even up the right way. But whoa, excuse me, ma'am. But I read Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, Order of the Phoenix, Half-Blood Prince, Deathly Hallows. I'm gonna put them down and just hold up this one. So yeah, I read the last 5 books in the Harry Potter series. I decided to start a reread of it last month because I felt like I just needed something familiar and just like easy to read. So I picked up Harry Potter and I ended up finishing the series in the month of November. So 5 of the books I finished and the other 2 I finished in the month before. Of course, these are 5 stars. I don't think I need to talk about them. You know what it is, but this is a reread. I can't remember how, I think I'm up to like 20 something rereads of Prisoner of Azkaban. Not Prisoner of Azkaban, sorry, Philosopher's Stone, the first book. Yeah, it's getting a little crazy. So I did that. The other book that I listened to on audiobook was Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline. I finished this one in 2 or 3 days, I think it was. Actually no, it was 4 days because one day I did like no reading because I was like working, really busy with the business, working that night, went to bed because I had to be up early the next morning. Didn't do anything. But I loved Ready Player 1. I have read it I think 3 times, might be 2, but pretty sure it's 3. But I really enjoyed it, and I especially enjoyed the audiobook because it was narrated by Will Wheaton, and I think he is just the perfect voice for that story, and he just does it so well. So I was so glad that they had Will Wheaton back. I was really scared at the start of the book because it started out with the like the publisher's bit where it says, you know, who was the publisher, who was the author, what is this, and it was like some older gentleman, like based on his voice, I'm pretty sure it was an older gentleman, and I was like, oh really? And then Will Wheaton came on, I'm like, yes. Not that I'm a huge fan of him normally, like I barely know what he does, but I just think his voice suits it. Like the only reason I even know who he is because of The Big Bang Theory. That's the only reason I know who he is, really. But the audiobook was really well done. I was so nervous going into Ready Player 2 because, you know, sometimes when they do these like sequels to books or series that have been finished for a few years and they weren't intended to have a sequel, it's usually a flop because they're just kind of like money grabbing and they kind of like half-heart it because they know people loved the first book, so of course they're gonna go buy the second book. But yeah, so I was a little nervous, especially because, you know, the movie came out, people were hyped about it again a little bit more, people were talking about it again, and then suddenly this out of the blue this sequel was announced and I was like, oh god, it's gonna be one of those. But it was actually really good. It was fun, it was interesting. There is a lot of talking and a lot of discussion, but that was the same in Ready Player 1. It was hectic, it was action-packed, it was interesting. I was totally in it. I'm not 100% set on whether I rate it 4.5 or 5 stars. For the moment I've given it 5 because I did really, really enjoy it, but it wasn't quite as good as Ready Player 1, which I did rate 5 stars, so I'm like, should it be a 4.5? I don't know. But I'll let it marinate and then think about it later. So now on to the physical and ebooks I read. Firstly, we have Queen of Vaults by Amanda Foody. This is the 3rd book to Ace of Shades. I really enjoyed this one. It was a little bit slower than the first 2, I think. There was a little bit more, I don't know, there was a little bit more, not really I suppose there was a little bit more character development, but there was a little bit more just like slow spots than there was, and I think in the other 2 books, I feel like they were a bit more action-packed, and I think I have rated this 5 stars, but I'm thinking 4.5 now that, like, after I've read it, I've thought about it a bit. I'm thinking about putting it down to a 4.5 because I feel like some of this depth, like, this is a big book. It's 600 pages. Yeah, just 600 pages basically. I think it's 601 or something like that. But I feel like it could have been closer to the 400 to 500 mark if they just kind of went with the little bit more action. But I do understand why there was the slower bits, because they were like, you know, I don't want to spoil anything, so I can't really discuss exactly, but there was slower bits because there was a certain event that they were like pretending to do. I'm gonna give up trying to explain it because I can't do it without spoilers. But yeah, I feel like the other ones were just more action-packed. They were that little bit more like up and intriguing. So I think I liked Ace of Shades and King of Fools a little bit more than Queen of Vaults. So I'm gonna rate this one 4.5 stars. I still did really enjoy it and had a lot of fun reading it, but it was just on that slower side. I feel like it could have, like, those events could have been like summed up a bit quicker and we move on to the more action-packed stuff. So, you know, there's that. I feel like it's not the best end to a series. I did enjoy the overall, like, ending and how it wrapped up. So there is that, but I just feel like this was a little bit more disappointing than the other 2 books in the series. Next, for physical books, I read Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This one I ended up rating, what was it, 3.5 stars? Like, it was fine. I was very intrigued about the world. I was intrigued about the magic system. I enjoyed the characters, but it was just a bit slow. And it kind of felt like I just wasn't connecting or really getting into the book as much as I hoped I would. I was struggling to get through this, which is why, like, I got to a point where I wasn't feeling like reading because I knew this was what I was reading. Like, I wasn't feeling like picking this up. I wasn't like super hyped to go back, oh, I want to finish that, so I'm gonna go read some. And that was a little bit disappointing because I did think I was going to really enjoy this. As I said, interesting concept, interesting magic system, interesting world, enjoyable characters, but just, besides the love triangle. And someone compared this to Twilight, which I have no idea because I've never read nor watched Twilight, but someone compared the love triangle to Twilight. So if you get that reference, love triangle, I don't know if it's just because, you know, it's a love triangle, so, you know, you automatically compare it to Twilight because Twilight had a love triangle, or whether this actually is similar in the love triangle-ness, I don't know. But for those that have read or watched Twilight and know about the love triangle, apparently it's similar. But yeah, so wasn't a fan of the love triangle, was slow, wasn't like engaging to me. So I think it was about 250 pages, I think it was, about halfway. I ended up swapping to the audiobook, which I did prefer listening to it on the audiobook. It made it that little bit easier and it made it go by a bit quicker because I wasn't feeling like I was pushing myself through it because I was just listening to it. But I did enjoy how it ended. I wasn't overly hooked on it at all. So yeah, definitely disappointing. I hoped I would like this even more, but I'm only rating it 3.5 stars, and this was one of the books that I needed to read for the Goodreads Choice Awards challenge that I'm doing for myself. If you haven't seen my December TBR where I discussed this, basically I'm trying to read as many books in the YA fantasy sci-fi category of the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2020 as I can, and then, well, that I want to. There's some that I don't want to, but I'm going to try and read as many as I can, and then, like, out of those ones, see which one I would pick. But there is, I think, 10 that I'm reading, so it's a good selection I'm judging on. Obviously, we don't know, as of I'm filming this, I don't know the winner. I know we've got to the finalists as I'm filming this. I voted for the finalists yesterday, so that video will be coming sometime in the next couple months. I'm hoping to read these in like December, January, so wish me luck. Next was the ebook that I read, and that was The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This one where was I? Oh, I was sitting at my grandma's hearing aid appointment waiting for her, and I'm like, I feel like reading. So I went on to SCRIBD and this came up. I have read the Themis Files by Sylvain Neuvel and I loved them so much, especially the audiobook. They were so impactful, just like how it was written. Like, it's written in interviews and stuff, so you're really learning about these characters. It's very character driven. There is like a pretty big plot, but it is very character driven, and I just loved learning about these characters, and I felt their pain, and it was so well written. And so I saw this author, and I'd seen this cover around before, and I'd seen people talking about it, but I can't remember if they were recommending it or not. All I know is I've seen people talking about it. And I said, I saw the author's name. I loved the other series that I've read by them, so I was like, I'm gonna give this a go. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was interesting, and I feel like it could be impactful, but maybe it might have been better on an audiobook. I don't know, but just how it was, I was kind of like, this is an interesting concept, but I'm a little bored about it. I don't know. Like, I get the idea. It is really short. Like, it's 112 pages on ebook. I don't know how many pages the actual physical book is, but it's 112 pages on ebook, and it's really short. It was really good, like, quick to read, but at the end of it, I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, I've read it now. I don't know how much to give away because I don't know what's in the synopsis. I didn't read the synopsis before I read this. I had no idea what it was when I went into it. But basically it's about this family that is trying to immigrate into the UK. They're trying to immigrate and they have to do this test. And yeah, I don't want to say any more because I said I don't know what's in the synopsis, so I don't want to give away it too much. But basically they're doing this test, but it's not all that it appears to be. So yeah, so I started off the first 2 chapters. I was like, okay, this is interesting. You know, we've got guns and shit involved, people are dying, whatever. And then we get to chapter 3 and you realize a big part of it. I don't know if it's in the synopsis, so I'm not gonna say anything. But you realize a big part and you're like, holy shit, I did not see that coming. And then that part was interesting. Then you got to chapter 4 and it was kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm over this now. I just wasn't engaged with it. I ended up rating it 3 stars. Wasn't a huge fan. It was fine, but it just, yeah, something about it just didn't click with me. I don't know. So I had 2 good books and 2 disappointing books on this wrap up, like not including the rereads of Harry Potter. So it was a little bit up and down month. I am filming this on the 29th and I may be able to finish an audiobook tomorrow. I'm hoping. We'll see. But if I do, I'll just tack that on to next month's wrap up. Let me know what your favorite book you read in the month of November was. Hopefully I have a better December than I did November, and hopefully I read more. I'm gonna try and read some graphic novels because I did promise myself I was gonna read more graphic novels, but I haven't read any all month. So I'm gonna try and read some more graphic novels in December and also help me get closer to my Goodreads goal, because I'm currently sitting at I think 122 books out of 150 is my goal. So I have 28 to go and only a month to do it. So I'm gonna try and read some graphic novels and some short books to try and get through that. So wish me luck. That is it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed it and I'll see you in my next video.